Commander Victoria Hayes stood at the viewport of the UES Phantom, watching the massive Krivath supercarrier Dominion slice through space like a predator. The stealth ship systems were running silent, their experimental cloaking technology the only thing keeping them alive in the shadow of the behemoth. "Status report," Hayes whispered, her eyes never leaving the target. The bridge crew worked in near darkness, their stations dimmed to minimal power. Lieutenant Marcus Wung, her tactical officer, spoke softly from his station. "Stealth systems holding at 98%. No indication they've detected us. The Dominion's shield patterns are exactly as intelligence predicted." Hayes nodded, her short silver hair catching the dim light of the tactical displays. The Phantom was humanity's latest achievement in stealth technology, but it was still just a Corvette-class vessel against the largest warship ever built. The Dominion was more than just a carrier. It was the crown jewel of the Krivath Empire's fleet, a mobile command center that could deploy entire battle groups in seconds. "Commander," technical specialist Jun Zhao called from his station, "I've finished analyzing their communication patterns. There's a gap in their security cycling every 47 minutes. It's brief, but we could exploit it." Hayes allowed herself a small smile. This was why she'd handpicked her crew. They were the best of what remained of Earth's fleet. After 3 years of devastating losses to the Krivath Empire, humanity needed a game-changer. The brass called this mission impossible. Hayes called it necessary. "Gather the assault team in the briefing room," she ordered. "It's time." 10 minutes later, Hayes stood before 20 of the most skilled operators in the United Earth Forces. Master Sergeant Dmitry Volkov, her ground team leader, stood at attention with his squad. Next to him, Dr. Kenzo Tanaka, their xenotech specialist, reviewed data on his tablet. "Ladies and gentlemen," Hayes began, "in 20 minutes we're attempting something no one has ever done. We're going to capture the Dominion." The room remained silent, but Hayes could feel the tension. These soldiers had seen enough combat against the Krivath to know what they were up against. The aliens' crystalline armor and plasma weapons had torn through Earth's defenses like paper in the early days of the war. Dr. Tanaka has developed a virus that can temporarily disrupt their Neuralink systems. Once inside, we'll have exactly 18 minutes before their biotech adapts. Sergeant Volkov's team will secure the primary control node, while Lieutenant Wung leads the secondary team to their engineering deck. Hayes brought up a holographic display of the carrier's interior. "We've learned from bitter experience that we can't match Krivath technology head-on, but they've never faced human ingenuity on this scale. They expect us to fight conventionally. We're going to prove them wrong." Dr. Tanaka stepped forward, his usually calm demeanor intense. "The virus will transmit through their crystalline command circuits. Once it takes hold, their entire command structure will be compromised. But timing is critical. If we miss the security gap, we'll lose our only chance." Hayes watched her crew absorbing the information. They'd trained for months in simulations, but this was different. This was real, and failure meant more than just death. It meant the possible extinction of humanity. "One more thing," Hayes added, her voice carrying steel. "The Krivath think they're superior because they've never lost a capital ship. Today, we're going to show them why they should fear human determination. Gear up." The assault team moved with practiced precision, donning the latest in adaptive armor. The suits were reverse-engineered from salvaged Krivath technology, allowing them to partially blend with the carrier's internal sensors. As Hayes checked her own gear, Volkov approached. The big Russian's face bore scars from close encounters with Krivath warriors, but his eyes were calm. "Commander, the team is ready. We will not fail." Hayes clasped his shoulder. "I know, Dmitri, we've lost too much to fail now." The next 30 minutes were a blur of final preparations. The Phantom glided closer to the Dominion, timing their approach with a passing debris field. Hayes felt the familiar tension building in her spine, the moment before action when everything hung in balance. "Security gap in 3 minutes," Wung reported from tactical. Hayes took her position. "All teams, final check. Remember, once we're inside, we're on a countdown. The Krivath have never faced humans fighting on their own terms. Let's show them why that was a mistake. The massive form of the Dominion filled their view screen, its crystalline hull gleaming with internal energy. Somewhere in that fortress were the secrets to fighting back against the Krivath Empire. Hayes intended to take them all. Gap opening in 10 seconds, Wong announced. 9, 8. Hayes took a deep breath. Humanity had been pushed to the brink, but they weren't finished. Not while they could still fight back, not while they could still surprise their enemies. 3, 2, 1. Execute, Hayes commanded, and the Phantom surged forward, beginning the most daring raid in human history. The Phantom's stealth pod detached silently, carrying Hayes and her infiltration team toward the Dominion's secondary maintenance airlock. Inside the cramped compartment, 20 operators checked their gear one final time. The crystalline fragments embedded in their adaptive armor pulsed faintly, mimicking Krivath biosignatures. Biosync at optimal levels, Dr. Tanaka whispered, monitoring readings on his wrist display. The carrier's sensors should read us as maintenance drones. Master Sergeant Volkov's voice rumbled through the team's secure channel. Remember, silent takedowns only. One alarm and we lose our advantage. The pod's docking clamps engaged with a soft thud. Hayes felt her pulse quicken as the airlock cycled. Everything hinged on these first few minutes. Lieutenant Wong's voice came through their comms from the Phantom. Virus payload ready. 18-minute countdown begins on your mark. The inner airlock door slid open, revealing a cathedral-like maintenance bay. Crystalline pillars stretched overhead, pulsing with energy that powered the massive vessel. Krivath worker drones shuffled between repair stations, their movements mechanical and purposeful. Hayes gave the hand signal, and her team moved out in perfect formation. Their modified armor let them blend in with the drones, but they couldn't risk close inspection. Dr. Tanaka led them toward a Neuralink terminal, his movements precise and practiced from countless simulations. Access point located, he murmured, interfacing his equipment with the alien technology. Initiating viral sequence, mark. Wong's countdown began in their heads-up displays, 18:00, 17:59, 17:58. The team split into their assigned groups. Volkov led his squad toward the primary control node, while Hayes and 5 others headed for the secondary command center. They needed to secure both locations to maintain control once the virus took effect. They encountered their first real obstacle 3 decks up. A Krivath warrior caste patrol rounded the corner, their crystalline armor gleaming. Unlike the worker drones, warriors were fully sentient and far more perceptive. Hayes froze, her team instantly becoming motionless like the other drones. The patrol leader's faceted eyes swept over them. 1 second, 2 seconds. Hayes's finger tightened imperceptibly on her weapon's trigger. The patrol moved on. Too close, technical specialist Zhao breathed over the comm. Their neural network is starting to register anomalies. We need to move faster. 15:42 remaining. They picked up the pace, moving through the carrier's towering corridors with renewed urgency. The Dominion's interior was a maze of crystalline architecture and pulsing energy conduits. Occasional tremors shook the deck plates as the massive ship's engines maintained its course. Volkov here, the sergeant's voice crackled. We've reached the approach to the primary node, heavy security presence, going to need a distraction. Hayes nodded to Zhao, who pulled out a small device they'd nicknamed the Screamer. It would disrupt the Krivath's crystalline communications, but only for a few seconds. Releasing Screamer in 3, 2, 1. The device activated, sending invisible waves of disruption through the carrier's neural network. Every drone in their vicinity stopped moving. Warning lights flashed as the ship systems registered the brief communication blackout. Move, Hayes ordered, and both teams sprinted for their objectives. They encountered confused warrior patrols, but the aliens were too disoriented to react effectively. Precise shots from silenced weapons dropped the few who managed to raise an alarm. 12:03 remaining. Hayes's team reached the secondary command center first. 2 Krivath technicians looked up in surprise as the humans burst in. They never had a chance to react. Hayes's team secured the room in seconds, with Dr. Tanaka immediately beginning work on the control systems. Primary team status, Hayes demanded. Static crackled, then Volkov's voice came through, punctuated by weapons fire. Heavy resistance. They've got a warrior prime defending the node. Need immediate support. Hayes cursed. A warrior prime was the equivalent of a Krivath Special Forces commander, far more dangerous than regular warriors. Zhao, get me ship schematics. We need another route to their position. Commander, Tanaka interrupted, his hands flying over the alien controls. I think I can help. The virus is spreading through their neural network if I can. Yes, I'm redirecting maintenance drones to their position. Through the command center's viewing crystals, Hayes watched as dozens of worker drones suddenly turned on the Krivath warriors, swarming them with mindless determination. The distraction was exactly what Volkov's team needed. Primary node secured, Volkov reported. But we've got bigger problems. Commander, you need to see this. 8:17 remaining. Hayes left Tanaka and 2 operators to secure the secondary center, while she led the rest of her team to Volkov's position. They found the sergeant's team barricaded in the primary control node, surrounded by dead Krivath warriors and their reprogrammed drones. But it was what they found in the node's data crystals that made Hayes's blood run cold. Confirmation of what we suspected, Volkov said grimly. The Dominion isn't just a carrier, it's a factory ship. They're not just building fighters, they're growing them. Organic technology on a scale we've never seen. Hayes studied the tactical displays, her mind racing. The Krivath weren't just waging a war of conquest. They were transforming captured territories, seeding them with their crystalline technology. Earth wasn't just facing defeat, it was facing assimilation. New objective, Hayes announced. We're not just taking this ship, we're going to learn every secret it holds. Humanity needs more than a victory, we need a future. 5:44 remaining. The real battle for the Dominion was about to begin. The route to the Dominion's bridge became a gauntlet of crystalline corridors and desperate combat. Commander Hayes led from the front, her adaptive armor now scored with plasma burns. Behind her, the combined teams moved with practiced precision, but time was running out. 4:22 remaining on the virus countdown. Multiple hostile signatures ahead, Zhao reported, his sensors picking up movement through the ship's pulsing walls. They've figured out what we're doing. The bridge crew is preparing for a last stand. Hayes keyed her comm. Tanaka, status on ship systems. The virus has given us control of life support and internal defenses, the scientist replied from the secondary command center. But the bridge has isolated itself. They're running on independent systems. A barrage of plasma fire erupted from ahead, forcing the team into cover. Crystalline shards exploded from the walls as Krivath warriors poured sustained fire down the corridor. This was no random patrol. These were elite guards, and they knew exactly what was at stake. Volkov, defensive pattern Sierra, Hayes ordered. The sergeant immediately began coordinating their response, with teams leapfrogging from cover to cover while laying down suppressing fire. Their modified weapons were barely effective against the warriors' enhanced armor, but they didn't need to kill, just keep them occupied. Hayes checked her tactical display. 3 parallel corridors led to the bridge, all heavily defended. Commander, Tanaka's voice crackled with urgency. I've found something in their data cores. The Krivath aren't just growing ships, they're evolving them. Each vessel is a prototype for the next generation. The Dominion. It's carrying genetic templates for their entire fleet. Hayes processed this as she fired another burst at the defenders. Can you access those templates? Yes, but wait. Tanaka's voice changed. Commander, the ship's biosystems are becoming more resistant to the virus. We're losing control faster than anticipated, 3 minutes maximum before total failure. Zhao spoke up from his position. I have an idea. Their neural network, it's not just for communication. It's how they control the ship's organic components, if we overload it. We could trigger a cascade failure, Hayes finished. But we'd have to do it from the bridge. she made her decision. New plan, Volkov, take half the team and flank right, make as much noise as possible, the rest with me. The sergeant grinned fiercely. Time to show these crystals how humans fight. His team immediately began an aggressive push, drawing the defenders' attention with a thunderous display of firepower and explosives. Hayes led her smaller group through maintenance tunnels, using the confusion to slip past the main defensive line. The passages were cramped, filled with pulsing organic cables that seemed to recoil from their presence. 2:15 remaining. They emerged behind the Krivath defensive position, catching several warriors completely by surprise. The close-quarters battle was brutal and swift. Hayes's modified rifle punched through crystalline armor at point-blank range, while her operators engaged with equal efficiency. Bridge access ahead, Zhao reported between breaths. Heavy doors, but the control systems are connected to the neural network. Do it, Hayes ordered. Zhao connected his equipment to a nearby terminal, his fingers flying over the interface. The massive doors shuddered, then began to slide open. The bridge of the Dominion was a vast chamber, dominated by a central crystalline spire that pulsed with energy. Krivath officers manned organic control stations that seemed to grow from the deck itself, and at the center. Warrior Prime, someone shouted as a massive figure emerged from behind the spire. The Krivath commander stood nearly 3 meters tall, its armor a lattice of shifting crystals that put their previous opponents to shame. 1:33 remaining. The Warrior Prime moved with impossible speed for its size, closing the distance before Hayes's team could properly establish firing positions. Its crystalline blade sheared through one operator's armor like paper, while energy pulses from its offhand weapon scattered the others. Hayes rolled under a sweeping attack, her enhanced reflexes barely keeping her alive. The Warrior Prime was a blur of motion and lethal precision, its centuries of combat experience evident in every movement. The spire, Tanaka shouted through the comm. It's the primary neural nexus, overload it and the whole network will collapse. But the Warrior Prime stood between them and their objective, an immovable guardian of its ship's heart. Hayes felt time slipping away as she dodged another devastating attack. The chamber's doors exploded inward as Volkov's team finally broke through, catching the bridge crew in a crossfire. The Warrior Prime turned slightly at the new threat, and Hayes saw her opportunity. She sprinted forward, ducking under the creature's guard. Its blade caught her shoulder, cutting deep, but momentum carried her past. The neural nexus loomed before her, its crystalline surface rippling with power. 0:45 remaining. Hayes slammed her last screamer device directly into the spire, cranking its power to maximum. The effect was instantaneous. The crystal matrix began to fluctuate wildly, energy coursing through its structure in chaotic patterns. The Warrior Prime roared, its own neural connections disrupted by the overload. It staggered, crystalline armor cracking as the ship systems went haywire. "Clear the bridge," Hayes shouted, stumbling back from the destabilizing spire. Her team didn't need to be told twice, dragging their wounded clear as the chamber filled with coruscating energy. 0:15 remaining. The last thing Hayes saw before they sealed the bridge was the Warrior Prime reaching desperately for the spire, trying to save its dying ship. Then the overload reached critical mass, and the neural network shattered. The Dominion shuddered as its organic systems went dark. Emergency lighting kicked in as backup power engaged. In the sudden silence, Hayes keyed her calm. "Tanaka, did we get it?" "Confirmed," the scientist replied, his voice tight with excitement. "The neural network is completely severed. The ship, Commander, the ship is ours." Hayes looked at her surviving team members, their armor scarred and smoking, but their spirits unbroken. They had done the impossible. They had captured the pride of the Krivath fleet. But as she studied the tactical displays coming back online, she realized this wasn't the end. This was just the beginning of a new phase in the war, one where humanity finally had a fighting chance. In the aftermath of the bridge battle, the Dominion's vast command center had become a hub of frantic activity. Dr. Tanaka worked at the main control interface, his fingers dancing across crystalline surfaces as he attempted to decipher the ship's backup systems. The neural network's destruction had given them control, but at a cost. Many of the carrier's advanced functions were now offline. Multiple Krivath vessels have altered course, Lieutenant Wang reported through the comm from the Phantom. They've detected the network failure. Estimate 30 minutes before the first response fleet arrives. Hayes studied the tactical display, watching red dots converge on their position. Tanaka, talk to me. What are we dealing with? The scientist didn't look up from his work. The Dominion systems are incredible. The neural network wasn't just a control system, it was an evolution engine. The ship doesn't just grow fighters, it designs them in response to combat data. Each deployment is an experiment in warfare. Can we use it? Hayes demanded. Yes, but not at full capacity, not without. Tanaka hesitated. Commander, I have an idea, but you're not going to like it. He pointed to a crystalline chamber near the destroyed neural spire. Inside, suspended in a translucent fluid, floated what looked like a partial Krivath nervous system. This is a backup processor. It's damaged but functional if we connect it to our own neural patterns. You want to interface directly with Krivath technology? Volkov interrupted, his voice sharp with concern. That's suicide. Not exactly, Tanaka explained. Our adaptive armor already contains crystalline components. With modifications, we could create a limited connection, enough to control the ship's primary functions, but not so deep that we risk assimilation. Hayes looked at the chamber, then at the approaching enemy fleet on the tactical display. What do you need? The next 20 minutes were a blur of preparations. Tanaka and Zhao worked to modify their armor's crystalline components, while Hayes coordinated with the Phantom to maintain their stealth profile. The Dominion's massive hull still protected them from long-range scans, but that advantage wouldn't last once the response fleet arrived. Interface ready, Tanaka announced finally. But Commander, this has to be you. The system will only accept a primary controller. Hayes nodded, having already reached the same conclusion. She removed her damaged armor plates, allowing Tanaka to attach additional crystalline nodes to her neural ports. Each connection sent shivers down her spine, like ice forming under her skin. Remember, Tanaka warned, don't fight the interface. Let the patterns flow naturally. Try to. He was cut off as Hayes activated the connection. The world exploded into crystalline light. She was the ship. Every corridor, every chamber, every pulsing energy conduit became an extension of her nervous system. The Dominion's vast bulk stretched around her like a new body, its sensors becoming new eyes that peered into space. Through the haze of alien data, Hayes heard Tanaka's voice. Commander, focus on weapons and propulsion. Don't let yourself get drawn too deep. Hayes gritted her teeth, forcing the cascade of information into manageable patterns. Slowly, the ship's systems began responding to her thoughts. Engines hummed to life. Weapon batteries charged. Defense screens shimmered into existence. Multiple contacts, Wang's voice cut through her concentration. Krivath battle group dropping out of FTL, 6 capital ships, multiple escort squadrons. Hayes opened her eyes, though she didn't need them to see any more. The tactical display was now a three-dimensional construct in her mind, showing the approaching Krivath fleet in perfect detail. They were moving into an attack formation, preparing to reclaim their lost vessel. They're hailing us, Zhao reported. Put them through, Hayes ordered, her voice resonating oddly through the crystalline interface. A Krivath fleet commander appeared on the main screen, its faceted eyes blazing with fury. You dare, it hissed in translated speech. You dare to contaminate our sacred vessel with your primitive minds. Hayes felt the ship systems responding to her rising anger. Sacred? You're using this technology to exterminate species, to rewrite the galaxy in your image. We've seen your templates, your plans for systematic genocide. Evolution demands perfection, the commander responded. Your species is an aberration. Surrender now and we will make your extinction swift. Hayes smiled, feeling the Dominion's weapons systems fully engaging. Counteroffer. Retreat now, or discover how primitive minds can improve upon your perfect technology. The Krivath commander's response was to cut transmission and launch fighters. Hundreds of crystalline vessels poured from the capital's ships, forming attack patterns that had devastated Earth's fleets countless times before. But this time was different. Through her neural connection, Hayes could see the patterns in their movements, the underlying logic of their tactics. More importantly, she could access the Dominion's combat databases. Every strategy the Krivath had ever developed was now an open book. "All hands battle stations," Hayes commanded, her consciousness expanding through the ship systems. "Let's show them what this carrier can really do." The Dominion's biological launch bays activated, but instead of deploying standard fighters, Hayes initiated something new. The ship's evolution engines had been designed to improve upon existing patterns. Now, guided by human creativity, they began producing hybrid designs, fighters that combined Krivath crystalline technology with human tactical doctrine. The first wave launched, organic ships that moved with impossible agility. Where Krivath fighters were predictable, these new vessels fought with human unpredictability. The enemy formation broke almost immediately, their perfect patterns shattering against a combat style they had never encountered. Through it all, Hayes felt the ship changing, adapting, learning. The Krivath had created the ultimate evolutionary engine of war, but they had never imagined what it could become when guided by human ingenuity. The battle was about to change everything. Space erupted into a storm of crystalline shards and energy beams as the battle reached its crescendo. Through her neural link with the Dominion, Hayes orchestrated a symphony of destruction unlike anything either species had seen before. The hybrid fighters moved like a swarm of angry hornets, their human-inspired tactics wreaking havoc on the rigid Krivath formations. "Primary target acquired," Volkov announced from his tactical station. "Their command ship is trying to coordinate a new attack pattern." Hayes felt rather than saw the opportunity. The Krivath fleet was struggling to adapt to their unconventional strategy, their perfectly ordered battle doctrine falling apart against human chaos theory in action. "Tanaka," she called out, her voice echoing with crystalline harmonics, "are the evolution engines at full capacity?" The scientist checked his readings. "Beyond full. Your neural patterns are accelerating the design process exponentially. The ship is generating innovations faster than the Krivath ever achieved." Hayes smiled, feeling the Dominion's systems surge with power. "Then let's show them something really new, initiating Protocol Phoenix." The carrier's biological manufacturing systems roared to life. But instead of launching more fighters, the evolution engines began producing something unprecedented: autonomous drone clusters that could reconfigure themselves mid-battle, adapting to enemy tactics in real time. "Impossible," the Krivath commander's transmission cut through their communications. "You cannot comprehend, let alone control, such complexity." "Your mistake," Hayes responded, her consciousness spread through the ship's vast networks, "was assuming that human minds are simple. We don't just adapt, we imagine. We create. And now we're going to use your own technology to show you exactly what that means." The drone clusters deployed, spreading out in fractal patterns that the Krivath computers couldn't predict. When the enemy fighters engaged, the drones split and reformed, each piece becoming a new whole, multiplying the chaos. Lieutenant Wang's voice cut through the battle noise. "Commander, detecting power buildup in the enemy command ship. They're preparing to trigger some kind of failsafe." Hayes dove deeper into the Dominion systems, searching through combat databases. There, hidden behind layers of encryption, she found what the Krivath were planning. "They're going to try to activate a remote kill switch in the crystalline technology. Tanaka, can we stop it?" "Not directly," the scientist replied, his fingers flying over control surfaces. "But your neural link, it's changing the ship's base code. The Dominion isn't just Krivath technology anymore, it's becoming something new." Hayes understood. Through her connection, human creativity was being written into the ship's very DNA, creating hybrid systems that the Krivath couldn't control. But the process was taking its toll. Her mind burned with the strain of maintaining such deep integration with alien technology. Multiple capital ships launching long-range strikes, Volkov reported. They're getting desperate. Good, Hayes growled, pushing through the pain. Because so are we. All units execute Battle Plan Omega. Let's finish this. The Dominion's hybrid squadrons moved as one, implementing tactics that existed only in Hayes's mind moments before they were executed. Fighter groups split and reformed in impossible patterns, striking from angles the Krivath never thought to defend. The enemy command ship's kill switch activated, sending out a crystalline resonance designed to shatter their technology. But the signal washed harmlessly over the hybrid systems, like a wave breaking against a new shore. "Return fire," Hayes commanded. The Dominion's main weapons batteries opened up, enhanced by human insight and Krivath engineering. Charged particle beams interconnected with surgical precision, creating a web of destruction that caught 3 capital ships at once. The crystalline vessels shattered, their perfect forms breaking apart in spectacular fashion. "Enemy fleet is breaking formation," Wang reported, excitement clear in his voice. "They're retreating." Hayes watched through the ship's sensors as the remaining Krivath vessels fled, their perfect order shattered by something they had never expected to face: the combination of their own evolutionary technology with humanity's creative chaos. But victory had come at a cost. Hayes could feel the neural interface burning through her nervous system. She had pushed the connection far beyond its intended limits, and now... "Commander," Tanaka's alarmed voice seemed to come from very far away. "We need to disconnect you before the feedback." "Not yet," Hayes gritted out. "One last thing." Through her fatting connection, she initiated a final sequence, transmitting the specs for their hybrid technology to every human fleet in range. The Krivath weren't the only ones who could evolve. "Now," she whispered, "do it now." The crystalline connections shattered, and Hayes fell into darkness. She awoke in the Dominion's medical bay, now converted to human use. Volkov and Tanaka stood nearby, discussing something in low voices. "Did it work?" she asked, her voice hoarse. Tanaka turned, smiling. "Better than we could have hoped. The transmission reached Earth Command. They're already implementing the hybrid designs across the fleet. The Krivath, they've never suffered a defeat like this. Their entire strategy was based on technological superiority, and now they face an enemy who can not only use their technology but improve upon it," Volkov finished. "The war isn't over, but for the first time since they arrived, we have more than hope. We have a real chance." Hayes closed her eyes, feeling the lingering echo of her connection to the ship. The Dominion had evolved, just as its creators intended, but in a way they never imagined. Human creativity had merged with Krivath engineering to create something entirely new. The tide hadn't just turned. A new chapter in the war had begun, and humanity finally had the tools to write their own ending. "Send word to Earth Command," Hayes ordered, already planning their next move. "Tell them to prepare for Phase 2. It's time to take the fight to the Krivath, and this time we're bringing our own evolution to the battlefield."